So a couple days ago, I made a tier maker tier list template, and someone in the Foamstars community made a video where they ranked all of the abilities using my template. This is my template, by the way. I made this tier list template. I made it, but the only credit given in the video description is my Discord username, which isn't even my username. And I watched the video. I watched through it. The video's terrible. No, I'm just The video's fine, but I do disagree with quite a bit of what they said. So this video is just being made as a response so we can get more opinions floating around the community. And just to be clear, this video is just for fun. Nothing wrong with making a tier list that people disagree with. In fact, I myself usually have really bad opinions, I've learned. So don't take anything said in this video too seriously, aside from my own tier list placements. Last thing, credits to Shashikiru and RidingRiptide for helping me get a lot of footage used in this video. They were willing to sit into private parties with me for hours, so thanks for that. And to start SoaBoa off, we have Spiky Beats. Spiky Beats is pretty much just a normal bomb. There's really nothing special about it. It doesn't do anything special at all. It takes a long time to explode, so it's very easy to get out of the way of it. It's very uncommon for you to actually hit people with it. However, it's so lagless to throw it out that it's very pointless to not use it. If you do end up hitting someone with it, it has a lot of knockback, so you can run in and very easily take them out, especially with the damage that it does, which I think is like half of their health. It also has some other applications that aren't hitting people with it, such as its ability to foam, like it can take out mountains in a single explosion. You can even place it somewhere where someone isn't looking. Whenever they try to retreat, they run into the range of the Spiky Beats without noticing and then explode. Well, not a common application. I have seen it happen before, and it's happened to me as well. It has a list of things that make it useful. However, nothing it can do is truly game-changing in any capacity, so I agree with SoaBoa that this is a B tier move. SoaBoa's other ability, however, does not share the same fate. Bubble Step is the best move in the entire game. Bubble Step is top of S tier. It is unrivaled. It does insane damage, gives you crazy mobility. It's SoaBoa's best foaming option somehow as well, which is something she desperately needs, by the way. You get 2 of them for some reason. There's nothing negative to say about Bubble Step. There's a reason that in the Skill Swap Extreme Party, everyone goes crazy when someone has Bubble Step, and that's because it's amazing. You don't even really need to worry about the fact that it has 3 different angles. If you just do the forward-facing angle every single time, it is still the best move in the entire game. SoaBoa feels like the most mobile character in the entire game specifically because Bubble Step. Bubble Step is the best ability in the game, top of S tier, no questions asked, moving on. Gotta Crush is a one-trick pony of an ability, but oh my god, is it a good trick. There's no ability that's as much of a get-out-of-jail-free card as Gotta Crush is. There are a couple, like, weird frames when using it where you can still die, but usually when you use it, you're perfectly fine and you can survive any encounter, as long as you're on the ground. It's not the greatest when it comes to its offensive capabilities. It's really hard to hit people who are aware of the surroundings and know that you're there, and it's also really easy to shoot SoaBoa out of it. However, it can knock people, including the star, into the bubble storm or water, which is crazy, but its primary use is as a get-out-of-jail-free card, and it does that extremely well. So I put it in A tier. So me and SoaBoa actually agree on every ability that SoaBoa has. The hot takes will come in soon, don't you worry. Moving on to Agito now, we have Storm Shot Too Easy, which I am not going to call it that. You cannot convince me to call it. The hot takes don't start here. Both me and SoaBoa seem to agree on Agito's abilities placements as well. However, the next character on the list does not have that luxury, so there will be some fun to be had once we're done with Agito here. Now you might recognize this B-roll footage as the same footage that was used in the intro. Fuck you. Anyway, the Shuriken functions as half of Agito's mobility pretty much. You will rarely end up using it for the purpose of actually doing damage. The only things that you actually end up using it for is foaming, which it is surprisingly really good at, like crazy good at, and obviously enabling part of Agito's mobility. It has an extremely fast recharge rate, which makes it usable in all kinds of situations because you will almost always have it in your pocket. And it can even be freely recharged if you get chills, which is kind of crazy. However, using it for mobility is a little difficult because it's extremely obvious when you're doing it. The whole enemy team can see the exploding shuriken in the ground and be like, oh hey, Agito's here. So overall, it's a pretty useful ability. It's definitely useful. This ability is teetering on A tier. It's A or B tier, but I'm going to have it in B tier just because later down the line, you'll see my tier list is already top heavy. So if I'm over here debating where it's going to go, I'm going to put it in the lower placement. Deep Blue Gank, which I'm just going to call Agito Dive because I don't want to say Deep Blue Gank all the time, is kind of dumb. The fact that it can give him health back, it can increase his mobility, it can launch him into the air, and can enable flanks is kinda bonkers. Getting health back is extremely annoying when you're going up against him, because while you can hit him while he's in the shark, he's too fast to be able to hit consistently, and the fact that he gets health back means that it doesn't even matter because he gets his health right as he dives in, so he's going to be at almost full health by the time he's in the shark anyway. You can shoot him while he's actually diving into the foam, but that's such a short period of time. The fact that it launches him so high up means that you could jump into the air and then land on top of someone's head. Even if they know you're coming, it's still hard for them to get away. This move to me is what makes Agito Agito. He can jump so high into the air, he can keep himself alive by using it to get away, he can use it to get into battle. It makes him fast, it makes him mobile. Now, the jump out of it surprisingly doesn't go very far if you're in enemy foam, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really affect it too much. The shark that he throws out, I've actually used as a warning that there's an Agito above me, so that shark can actually be a negative in making flanks harder to pull off. However, that's really hard to do, and overall doesn't change too much about the move. Oh, and as a bonus, if you hit someone as the shark fin, it will knock them back, which can help your team immensely in specific niche scenarios. So deep blue gank, Agito dive, whatever you want to call it, it's going in S tier. It's another S tier move. It's really good. Thanks GG is more niche than an alt should be, or an SSS if you're so petty about it. Like, yeah, it'll do a ton of damage if it hits you, but the problem is it really won't hit you. It's very uncommon for it to actually hit someone because all they have to do is get on an elevated surface and then they're good. It foams really well because everywhere it goes it creates a foam path. Too bad someone can just get on an elevated surface and now the shark's against a wall. And while if there is no good elevated surface for them to get onto, it's still unlikely that it'll hit them, but at least it'll be foaming. So it's not completely useless to use. Like, even if you get hit by the first hit, either the first hit can knock you out of it and into safety, or you can get hit by the first hit on purpose and then use your ult so you have the invincibility frames to survive it. It's just so counterable in almost every single situation that it can't go very high on a tier list. It's C or D tier, but I'll probably end up putting it in C just because the foaming that it can create, especially for a character like Agito that could use it, is pretty nice. Actually, I think D tier because while it can create foam for you, the recharge time it takes being that of an alt, and its only real use is to foam, that's not particularly worth it most of the time. Especially because the shark follows an enemy player, so all they have to do is get away from an area that they don't want to be foamed up, and now the shark really isn't helping anybody. Now, moving on to Tonix, we have Mr. Bouncy Bubble, which I'm just going to call Tonix Bomb because I'm not saying Mr. Bouncy Bubble every time. You would think that it's just a better spiky beats because it's a bomb that follows somebody, but honestly, it's just a worse spiky beats because it has such weirdly low health. You can destroy it so easily. It's more common for this bomb to get destroyed than it is for it to explode. However, it has the same benefit that SoaBoa's does of being virtually lagless. So there's really no harm in just throwing it and hoping it does something. And it can do things. It can foam as long as it explodes. It foams pretty well. And it can definitely surprise some people. Now, while this bomb can be destroyed easily, if it does explode, it's pretty good. And the fact that it chases people down means that in certain scenarios, it is a better spiky beats. Well, those scenarios are limited, so I will put it below spiky beats in C tier. Sometimes it just doesn't work when it explodes, like it doesn't do any damage for some reason. But it is definitely capable of surprising some people. So I feel like I've been blown up by Tonix bombs more than spiky beats. However, spiky beats is more likely to have the SoaBoa be close. So even if the Tonix bomb does blow up on you, the Tonix doesn't really get much out of it most of the time. So C tier move for me. Miss Fizzy Turret III, or in other words, Tonix's turret, is one of the top 10 abilities in the game, and I think most people can agree on... Oh, fuck! Oh, shit! Oh, sorry, I was having a stroke. Did you really put Tonix's turret in C tier? Okay, you're telling me that a turret with the range of half the map, this turret is like a Jet Justice that you could put down and then foam separate it. Tonix is one of the best foamers in the game because you can put this turret down to foam for you while you go off and do other things. Yes, it's destroyable, but the enemy team has to take time out of their match to run over it and destroy it, and its range is crazy good that you don't have to put it close to them. And the cooldown is so convenient that whenever the turret disappears out of its time, you can put another one down immediately, meaning if your turrets don't get destroyed, you will always have a turret down doing foaming while you're doing other things. The fact that this is in C tier is insane to me. The only downside I can really think of is that it doesn't really do damage. It's mostly a foaming tool. And foaming tools are not that necessary a lot of the time, but it's one of the best foaming tools in the game. And it can do damage. It's not hopeless in the damage department. It has good range when it comes to locking onto people. And Tonix can even hide behind it while trying to attack people and protect yourself. This is an A tier move. I don't understand how this could possibly be in C tier. And he barely even explained his reason for putting it so low. He just said, oh, it's a target, that's it, and then put it in C tier. And it's like, are you sure? Okay, on to King Blaster 13th now, which I'm just going to call King Blaster. King Blaster isn't the most useful. Are you fucking kidding me? So you put Tonix's turret in C tier, but Tonix's ult in A? Okay. Sure, King Blaster does a lot of damage if they hit, but it's so uncommon for it to hit. Yes, King Blaster creates a lot of foam whenever the shots hit the ground, but the thing is, just don't go there anymore. Just don't go to the hill of foam, or knock it down. Yes, it's quick to put down, and the foam it makes is a lot, so it's a good move, but you can even destroy it and make it so it only shoots like one shot from the sky. And I know I made this argument about the little turret, where, oh, but they have to take time out of their match to go destroy it. But this is an ult. It takes time out of Tonix's match to charge it, and you can just run in and destroy it, and now it's pointless. I put it in C tier. I don't see A tier for this. I really don't. Moving on to Jet now. I don't really know what to say about the vacuum sphere, to be honest. You throw it, and it pulls your enemies in, but that's really all it does. It can just pull enemies in. It can let Jet get a free half-charge shot on somebody, and if timed right, you can pair it with his other ability. And it's a pretty viable combo, but it still doesn't do that much, especially for using both of your abilities just for it. So it doesn't do that much. It's pretty hard to aim, but on rare occasion, it can absolutely wreak havoc if your entire team is around to take advantage. But that's not really a common application. Still, it does more than some other moves, so I'm going to give it a C tier. Cosmic Dive, or as Jet likes to call it, Islamic Dive. While not a really good move, it's sure better than bottom 3 in the entire game. Sure, it's punishable, but not as punishable as the other dive move. It even makes like a wall of your own foam in front of you just to make sure that if anybody tries to punish you, they have to get directly next to you. Sure, a lot of the time you can be punished for it. A lot of the time they can be punished for trying to punish you. You could definitely use it as an escape tool. I've done it before. And as mentioned earlier, you can pair it with the vacuum sphere. And if you manage to hit someone with it, which by the way is not as hard to do as you might think, it can do some serious damage, especially with how much damage Jet can do up close. Putting it in D tier is outrageous to me. It's almost B tier. I think it's C tier, but like bottom of D when only 3 other moves are in D is absurd in my opinion. If you put Coiff Dive in S tier, you cannot put Jet Dive in D tier. That's unbelievable to me. Jet's Galactic Bubble Shield was put in A tier by SoaBoa, and while I don't agree that it's A tier, I can understand it being there. Because while yes, it is extremely good for saving Jet's life, it's better at protecting than you would think it is, just because while people can jump into it, you can hide behind it instead of hide in it, so you can always see when someone's trying to sneak up on it. People can jump into it and attack you on the inside. It also protects you from like a lot more than you would think it would. Like a crazy amount. However, not everything. Barista's ult and Mel T's ult can hit straight through it, and you can also just walk through it, as previously mentioned. It's a lot harder to punish than it used to be, like a lot harder. However, it just doesn't have enough protection that it should have. Usually I just end up using it to keep the star alive for a little bit longer, or to foam up a specific area because Jet has infinite ammo. And those are pretty niche use cases for A tier, in my opinion. So it goes in B for me, but I do understand A tier. Now moving on to Penny. The Toboggan Bomb, which is a weird name for Penny's penguin ability, is surprisingly not that good. Like, you would think a fast-moving projectile that knocks your enemies into the sky and knocks them back, and also creates a line of foam and can knock mountains down, would be really good. But it just doesn't do much a lot of the time. Like, you can throw them out in the direction of players, and sure, it'll hit them, but you can't take advantage of it. All it ends up doing is being a really short line of foam. While you can use it in close range combat, if you throw it at them and miss, you're probably going to die. If you throw it at them and hit, very often do I see pennies not able to take advantage of it, and the player that just got hit by the penguin is able to get away anyway. Yes, the dream scenario is hitting the penguin, and then while they're in the middle of their stun, shooting them dead and chilling them. Or you can use it at the start of a game as a rollout, and you can also use it to take down mountains. All of this is true. And the fact that you get 2 of them makes it so that this move is not bad, but it seems like it should be higher than B tier, which is where I'm putting it. I can see C tier personally, which is where SoaBoa put it. It's B tier for me just because you get 2 of them. This thing is both a wall destroyer and a stun, and having 2 of those is very valuable. I've heard some weirdly negative things about the Penguin Squad. I've heard some people say that it's practically useless because of how much end lag it has. And well, yes, the end lag is kind of ridiculously high. I don't know why it's that high. It can do a lot of damage. Like, a lot of damage. And sure, it's hard to hit all of the shots from it, but say there's a star player, Mel T, camping on top of the cork, and you shoot all of this at her, it will just, like, it'll do crazy insane damage, as long as she doesn't know that you're there. And even if you can't hit it, it's a pretty good foaming move, too. Like, it makes a lot of foam, like a surprising amount of foam. Its placement on the tier list is really close to B tier for me, but I have to put it in C if for no other reason than the fact that I have seen it more than a lot of other moves get people killed, and usually for little upside. Because while it does insane damage when you hit it, it's really hard to hit all the shots from it. It's usually just a go-away tool. Emperor March, Penny's ult, is crazy niche for an ult. If you use it while fighting somebody, they can easily dodge around it and chill you while you're still recovering. It foams well, but not crazy well. Like, for a penguin that big, you'd expect more foaming to come from it. But the fact that it moves so quickly and moves straight forward means that even if it does hit you, the chances of someone being nearby to take advantage is not really that high. If it does hit you and someone's nearby, you're dead. It's over. And it can also corner you. I've been cornered by this move plenty of times and hit by it. But even so, I was usually just fine because, well, no one's really nearby. It has uses, but they're so narrow that I feel like it's gotta go in D tier. Decontamination, which is Rave Breaker's mines, are a move that seems like they should be way more useful than they are. If an enemy is in them and gets hit by them and you're nearby, it's almost a guaranteed chill. And even if it doesn't get a chill and you're not nearby, it'll still foam up the area quite a bit. But the problem is that it's super easy to see, like shockingly easy to tell when there's one there, and you can shoot it out if you do see that it's there. I've seen it absolutely wreak havoc, but that's not really very common. Usually throughout a game, Rave Breaker's mines won't end up doing too much aside from foaming. I've actually seen it used to shield Rave from Mel T's homing missiles because her missiles home in on the mine. Now, it's hard to say this move is bad, because lagless landmines that have a chance to be free chills and also a chance to be crazy foaming, especially when you can have 2 of them out at a time, can't really be bad. So it's high B or low A. I think I'm gonna put it high B because, like I previously said, this tier list is pretty top heavy, but it's pretty good, just not as good as you would think it should be. Home in the Foam is a very fun move to use in my opinion, however its actual uses aren't game breaking. It's surprisingly easy to sneak up on people. All you have to do is come from not directly in their line of sight, and if they're distracted or reloading, it's very likely that you will be able to hit them with it. And if you hit them with it, it's extremely likely that they'll get chilled by you. However, if the enemy team is around the person you get with it, it's super hard for you to survive after popping out of the ground. So you need to use it on players that are kind of singled out. But if you do hit someone who's singled out, it's over. They're gone. And you can also hit multiple people with it if you have like a crowd of them, which probably won't get you multiple chills, but it'll definitely scare them. It's also a good quick foaming tool. If you jump into an enemy's like mountain of foam and then jump out, it'll immediately destroy the mountain, which is pretty convenient. So I have mostly positive things to say about it. I think it's better than the Rave Mines, which are borderline A tier, which means this needs to go into the A tier, but it barely makes it in. So SoaBoa puts this in B tier, which I can understand, but I put it in A tier personally. Well, here it is. Every good tier list video needs a definitive hot take. And this might just be one of the biggest hot takes any tier list video on Foamstars could possibly have. Rave Breaker's ult goes into the A tier. Now I have a lot of explaining to do. And while I tried to keep the other moves brief for the sake of the video's pacing, I think I need to explain everything to do with this one. So let's do this. The main complaints that I've heard about this move from people who don't think it's good are it gets rid of your own team's foam and it doesn't pull very well. First of all, yes it does, it pulls very well. As long as they don't leave before it starts, they're stuck in the middle of it. And yes, it does get rid of your own team's foam, so don't shoot it into massive piles of your own team's foam. Why are you shooting it into piles of your own team's foam when that's not where the enemies are going to be? They're not going to be on your foam, they're going to be on theirs! Anyway, so if it's hard for you to aim, which I've heard as a complaint, if it's difficult to aim, what you want to end up doing is you want to find moments, alright? You can't use it off cooldown. You have to find moments where enemy players are on big piles of their own foam, which is a common application. There are often times where the enemy team is on their own foam and you're on your own foam, and it's kind of hard to make a push. So you break Rave's ult out, shoot it at the pile. They have to make a decision to either scram, leave that area, go to a new area, or get fucked up by Rave's ult. And it also gets rid of their foam, which is the exact same thing that Coiff's ult does, which was in S tier on SoaBoa's. Anyway, so let's say you shoot it and it completely misses every single person. You're still getting rid of a pile of enemy foam, which is valuable. If you shoot it and it gets a single player in it, that player is dead. Unless it is the star, in which case they're either dead still. This can single-handedly win matches of Smash the Star just because you can run in and kill the star so easily. In this footage that you're seeing right now, that's just Rave Breaker doing damage. If your team is there, the star is done for in that situation. And it's really hard for them to fight back while they're in the ult. Because while yes, they can shoot and they can jump and dodge you, they're stuck in place and you're not. Say you get multiple players in there. Sure, they can keep saving each other with slide saves. But if you just keep shooting at them, eventually one of them will die. And if they don't, they're hurt. And even the fact that you can save people, Coiff's ult, that's in S tier, by the way. The fact that this move was put in the D tier, but Coiff Guys, that's easier to avoid and much more telegraphed, is an S tier move, is absolutely ridiculous. I have seen this move win games as much as I've seen Coiff's win games. Because if you get the star in it, that dude is taking insane damage. And let's say, worst case scenario, you shoot it literally at a pile of just your own foam where no enemies are there. Which, I don't know why you're doing that, but let's just say you are. It doesn't get rid of that much even. If you're shooting this ult in a position where it's your foam and in a vital area where you need foam, you're just bad. If you mess up using Rave's ult, you're just bad at the game. I don't understand why everyone thinks this move is bad. You can win games with it. You can get free kills with it. Even if it misses, it makes people move. These are exact things that people compliment Coiff Guy's ult for. This is just Coiff Guy's ult, but slightly smaller. Coiff's ult was in S tier in SoaBoa's tier list. Rave Breaker's ult was in D tier, the lowest possible ranking. What is wrong with you? They do very, very similar things. I got to think the only reason that people don't like this move is that they're so used to their, let me just pop my ult whenever I have it moves. They're so used to their Coiff Guys where you just chuck it every single time it's off cooldown. Used to their SoaBoas where you just use it to save your life whenever you're in a bad situation. Literally just use a couple brain cells when you're using this ult and it'll do so much more than so many other ults can dream of doing. They don't like thinking. They don't like having situational awareness. They don't like needing to pay attention. These players don't enjoy needing to think about what they're doing when they're using their ult. They just want to use it. So then why, oh why is Baristador's ult ranked above Rave Breaker's? It's a smaller area, the only thing I can think of. That with Barista's ult, your team can run inside of it. Much easier than Rave's ult, but the problem with Barista's ult is it's so much more telegraphed. It is so much easier to avoid Barista's ult, and it's also so much easier to avoid Coiff's ult, but at the very least, Coiff is big and more deadly. This move can win games single-handedly. It can destroy piles of enemy foam, like massive, massive piles. It can make people leave certain areas, with the only downsides being it can get rid of your own foam, which, why are you shooting it at your own foam, dumbass? And you need to think while using it, which, considering that I just called everyone a dumbass, I don't think anyone does think when they're using it.
Are you okay?
Shut the fuck up! My hatred for you people is vitriolic. I don't understand how this is not a good move to people. A tier. Bitter Drip is decidedly much less exciting. It tries to do a similar thing to Taraha, where it can destroy mountains very easily and makes a lot of foam for your team, but it doesn't do it the same. All it really ends up doing is just making a little wall of foam, which can be useful, don't get me wrong. The wall can protect you from attacks, can let you get away, but the animation takes forever. It does no damage, despite the missiles coming from the sky. Like, you do not use it offensively ever. So really, the only real uses you get is making a tiny wall that most characters can destroy pretty easily, with either a single button press or just holding their fire for a little bit, or to break down another enemy wall, like a wall made from, say, a Tonix ult. You can throw it into the middle of it, and then it'll break down a bit of it. Not all of it, but enough of it for your team to not be affected by it. It would be D tier, but that's Barista's job, and having another move that, while not as good at doing it as Taraha, that can save him time breaking down something like that. I'm only putting it in C tier though. Very, very uncommon that you would rather use it over Taraha. It just happens that the Taraha's cooldown is not always done, so it's more of a backup option when Taraha isn't charged than anything else. Super City Roast, which I'm just going to call Taraha because I don't want to say Super City Roast every time, is a really, really good move, actually. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's not really supposed to do that. And the fact that it doesn't do much damage doesn't mean it doesn't do a lot of knockback. Holy shit, it can save your life. I've seen on a number of occasions where either the pushback that the cat makes or the actual knockback that Barista's punch makes can save him or even win the game. Again, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it doesn't have to. Baristador is a foaming character, and Taraha's main use is to foam. And good God, can it foam. It can destroy mountains in a single button press. It can make pathways for your team in a single button press. It can destroy lines of enemy foam in a single button press. And yes, some other moves can do similar things. Penny's Penguin can do similar things. But the difference is that Barista is supposed to do that. When you're playing as Penny, you don't go in thinking, I need to foam. So the fact that Barista has a move that can destroy mountains for him, so he doesn't have to take time out of his match to shoot it down, and he can make lines of foam for his team, is invaluable to him as a character. And even if you don't have any situation in which you use it for that, it still does crazy knockback if you do it at the right timing. I have seen it win games just based on the knockback that you can get if you hit them with Barista's punch. The only knock on it is that it doesn't do much damage, but the blue gank is in S tier and it doesn't do much damage. It enables doing damage. And Taraha is one of the best moves at enabling you and your team at doing damage, because it can destroy mountains of foam so they can get through, and it makes a path after doing so. Crazy, crazy good ability. I'm shocked that SoaBoa put it in A tier, because I'm putting it in S tier. It's a top 3 ability in the game. Latte Art Royale, which I'm just going to call it Airstrike because I'm stubborn, I talked very briefly about during my rant with Rave Breaker's ult. It's extremely telegraphed. If you actually get hit by Barista's ult, it means something unforeseen happened. Like you were in the middle of a reload animation, and then got stunned by something or other, and then you have auto reload on, so you shoot again and then have to reload again, and then you can get hit by it. Or he puts it in like a really, really good spot, a really niche situation, like while the storm's closing on, I actually don't remember the name of the map, but the shark one, I'll throw it up on screen here. It does have situations where it can win games, that's for sure. But they're not as applicable as a lot of other ults that are in the A tier, or even the B tier. It doesn't really do anything but make people leave a designated area for a couple seconds at most. which sometimes is crazy good. I have seen it win games. However, people needing to move very rarely ends up winning the game on its own. Like I said with Rave's ult, making people leave a specific area is a good use case. Absolutely is. Absolutely a good use. And while Barista's ult does make foam, it's not as good at it as you might think, because the foam only appears on the first frame of it being active. So while the ult is still spraying, you can already start to cover the ground with your own foam. It does a surprisingly small amount of damage, but being able to make people move from a designated area is a use. It's just a really small area, so I can't really justify putting it anything but C tier. SoaBoa having it in B is reasonable. A move with a chance to completely win the game, I can understand moving it up just because it has the chance to do that. However, for me, it's too uncommon for it to be able to make it up into B tier. Mel T is up next. Sumptuous promo, which I usually just call missiles, has a lot of uses, but none of them are game-changingly good. It's really good for rollouts at the start of the game. If you use it the second you land after the game starts, it can help your team get to the front lines quicker. It's very good for burst foaming. Like, if there's a pile of foam that you need to get over, or if there's a pile of foam you want to get rid of, you can just shoot this at it and it's going to be gone. It's like a Diet Barista's Taraha. The damage it does is pretty surprisingly good. Like, even for missiles falling from the sky, a lot of people get surprised by how much damage it actually does. It's not impossible to hit, but it's really telegraphed, and if your opponents are aware of the amount of damage that they do, usually they'll end up getting out of the way and you can't do much. And even if it does hit, and even if it foams up somebody, you're usually not using it from that close of a range, so you can't take advantage of it. However, using it defensively, like you're running away, someone's chasing you, and then you shoot it, they have to make the decision to either stop chasing you or try to dodge these missiles while still chasing you. And that can often be a decision that works better for you than it does for them. It can really screw them over and even chill them if they're low on health, which they often are because you're Mel T, so you're usually going to be shooting them before they actually make it to you. Well, most of the time you end up using it for its foaming capabilities. The fact that you can use it defensively like that, as well as a punish for things like Islamic Dive, it has to go into A tier, because it has so many uses that while usually what it just ends up doing is making foam paths, that's a good use, and the other things it can do are even greater. Sweet Campaign. Much more niche, but those niches, oh my god. The things this move can do to people, even if a star player runs into this move, they will die. They won't just take lots of damage. They will probably die. It can also make people in the middle of their ult question their life choices while they're using their ult if you put it down right in front of them. It is decently situational, but even if you don't use it in one of those situations, it still does make foam, like a lot of it, because it's shooting a bunch of ice cream balls. It's pretty easy to avoid the balls. Like, it's not that common that it'll actually get a chill, but sometimes people see it and they're like, no, I can't let Mel T get away. And they'll try to dodge them and then end up dying because it's surprisingly hard to dodge them. But that means that often you can use it to just make it so that people don't come near you. You put it down somewhere and they have to make a choice. They have to decide to go through and probably die, or run away and just not go through that area for the foreseeable future. So anytime you put it down, it'll end up doing something, even if it's foaming. And if you're smart, you can get chills with it. If you're really smart, you can kill the star with it. And even if you're not super good with it, just put it down on a flank route and no one's going to want to deal with it. A tier for sure. Mel T's Penetrating Cream Laser, yes, the game literally calls it that, is not good at all. For the other abilities, I have a list of things I want to talk about for each move. For this move, I just have the word bad. So we're doing this without a script pretty much. This move is the worst ult in the game, and to me, it's actually not really that close. The only one that can possibly contest with it is Thanks GG, but that still does more in my opinion. And the reason that does more is because it doesn't take so long to do. Mel T's ult, you have to, first of all, you have to be in a safe spot, so you either have to have just respawned or run out of the battle just to use it. Because while you're using it, you can be chilled. And because it takes so long for the animation to finish, people can come from across the map to kill you because Mel T just goes, hey, by the way, I'm ulting right now, and announces it to the entire enemy team. The laser will very, very rarely ever end up hitting somebody. And even if it does, most people nowadays know the movement well enough to just get out of the way And even if they don't get out of the way, it's super uncommon for it to get chills because, again, she has to be so far away for it to actually do anything that her team has to be there to take advantage. The only use that it has is it is good for foaming areas when there's absolutely no foam down for your team. So that's why it's not F tier, because it can do that. However, the amount of time it takes for the animation to go through, and the fact that the foam it makes is just a tiny little pile, like any Baristador can just cover it up almost instantly before it even does anything for your team. Just, it doesn't have any cases, really. The only time, and I mean the only time, where I can see this ult as being genuinely really, really good is if the opposing team is stuck in a corner with a Jet ult, because it can hit through Jet's ult. That is such a stupid specific situation. Every single ult has a better situation than that. And it's press triangle whenever something's happening to get temporary iframes. And yes, Mel T's ult also gets temporary iframes. Too bad for 15 seconds afterwards, you just have to sit there charging up your death laser, and now the entire enemy team knows that, hey, Mel T's right here, because again, she says, by the way, I'm ulting. This move is really, really bad. In my opinion, this is the worst move in the entire game. Not just the worst ult, the worst move in the entire game. Actually, second worst. We'll talk about the worst later, but at least it can foam. At the very, very least. Now, the B-roll you're seeing here is not me playing. It's actually my friend playing because I refuse to play as this character, so, bad YouTuber 0 out of 10. Coiff Hopper, which, by the way, you really couldn't think of a more creative name than Coiff Hopper. She hop on my coif till I got... I feel like this move would be better if it was on literally anyone else. Not literally anyone else, but like most other characters will get more use out of it than he will. Because like if Baristador had Coiff Hopper, the fact that he could throw it down and then just keep getting ammo back and foam up an extremely large area is really, really good. Like if you throw this down and a Mel T starts jumping on it and you're just like endlessly shooting ice cream, that's crazy good. Coiff doesn't exactly get the most use out of it, especially because his shots stall him in midair, so he's a very vulnerable target to characters like Mel T, who can lock on and just do a lot of damage to him while he's stuck up there. For some characters, though, like Agito can't really do anything to him when he's up there. However, the fact that his missiles have such like a limited range, like they just explode out there a little while, him being up, further up, does not help him very often. Like, it's not really somewhere he really tends to want to be very often that I can think of. He goes up there, and sure, he can just start shooting, but he's not really doing much. Just kind of there. Does give you your ammo back, and it's really good mobility for your team. Honestly, I think is more useful than the fact that it just launches you up. The mobility, it makes it so you can go very fast for a couple seconds once you jump on it. And the ammo it gives is good for a lot of people. It's also very easy to destroy, which I, for some reason, don't see a lot of people doing, but it's definitely a hindrance. The fact that it's on this character instead of another character where it would be absolutely broken like Barista makes it so you either have to be extremely coordinated with your team in a game that doesn't have voice chat, or just use it for yourself, which doesn't really have a lot of payoff most of the time. In my opinion, this goes in B tier. And I think a lot of Coiff players will disagree with me on that. But a lot of the time, this character is most effective when you're not just sitting in midair doing nothing. Coiff Dive is a very hard move to place, because while you can use it and it is crazy knockback, it can knock you into a bad position pretty easily. And the fact that he has enough range to reliably hit people after they've been stunned by it is pretty good. However, if you miss, you are almost certainly going to die. You try to be aggressive with it and miss, like you're going to die if your team's not near you. Now, if your team is near you, you might be able to get saved. However, you're still taking damage, and you have to respawn. And most Coiffs are too fucking stupid to be like, oh, I'm low on health, let me run away after I respawn, because then they just start shooting again and die again. It does have really, really good applications. You can use it when someone's getting close to you, and it will knock them away, and you're pretty safe. There are no other moves in the game that if you miss, there's a higher chance of you dying than there is a chance of you living. The only times where a quote-unquote miss won't kill you is if you're using it to run away, which you can do. You can use it to run away as like a burst tool, but you can also use Coiff Hopper for that. It's more of a backup option than anything. I think I have to give it the Rave ult treatment of, yes, if you use it stupidly, you just die, but if you use it well enough, that is not a very common occurrence. Coiff's ult I talked about decently extensively during the Rave ult rant, actually. So I don't need to say much about it here. It can definitely make the star player dance, and you just win pretty much, which is crazy good. It foams pretty well, since it's such a big area that it covers. But as I said in the Rave rant, it's just way too easy to avoid. Very commonly, no one gets stuck in it. And if people do get stuck in it, usually they'll get saved anyway, and you don't get much out of it. So it's really usually just a foaming tool. I will still put it in A tier with Raves, because it has almost every single upside that Rave's ult does. It's just a little bit easier to avoid, in my opinion. Mine de Mousse. Remember back when I said that there's a move worse than Mel T's ult? This is the one. This move, in my opinion, is the worst move in the entire game. Because it almost never does anything. You throw it down, it'll chase someone down extremely slowly, like it is so slow. It can be shot while it's chasing them down, so sometimes it doesn't even get the chance to explode. When it does get the chance to explode, it takes like 2 seconds for the explosion to actually come out. So even if it does reach you, you can get out of the explosion range anyway. And you're like, alright, well, what happens if it sneaks up on you? If it sneaks up on you, that means Chloe has snuck up on you. And if Chloe sneaks up on you, you're probably getting screwed up anyway. The only time where it's really that useful is if it explodes and you don't know it's there. But that is so uncommon because you're always moving in this game. If you're not moving at a time and this slow-ass bat can get over to you, like, that's on you. That's just poor play. Not to mention, it's fucking huge and it's glowing. The dream scenario is you throw this bat out, it chases someone down, it explodes, and then Chloe can run in and finish the job. But if Chloe is following this slow-ass bat and expecting it to actually hit someone, you're gonna be disappointed most of the time. So Chloe's not often even there to take advantage, because you don't want to use it close to yourself, because then that makes it so obvious where it's coming from. But if you use it far away from yourself, then you're not going to get to take advantage of it. So the only actual use that I've ever found for this move is to throw it down while you're being chased down by specifically Mel T. Most other characters, it doesn't matter. But if you're getting chased down by Mel T, you can throw it down and the homing missiles will home in on it instead. And sometimes that doesn't even work. Like, yes, if you're getting chased by SoaBoa and you throw it down, and for some reason SoaBoa chooses to, like, run through your team's foam, and then the bat explodes, like, yeah, sure, it'll explode. But the issue is you're running away, so you're not taking advantage of that explosion anyway. It's barely helping you. The only reason it doesn't go in F tier, and it's just bottom of D tier, is that it has no lag. Like, it takes such a little amount of time to throw it that there's really no point in not throwing it, but that's it. Like, it's not even particularly good at foaming. Like, Chloe's other ability is better at foaming. So, yeah, D tier. This move is the worst move in the game, in my opinion. You know what? No, I'm putting this in F tier, because something belongs down here. And if this move is obviously the worst, then it's going down there. I don't care that it's low on lag. It doesn't... Honestly, you might as well actually just shoot. Wait, SoaBoa put this in B tier? What? What? Sorry if at this point of the video my tone of voice starts changing rapidly. I had to re-record a lot of lines for this part because I kept breathing into the microphone in the old version, and both moves have their uses. So just bear with it. Tirer à la mode is 2 moves in 1, which is really good to have, and both moves have their uses. The first and most obvious one is when you press the button, you'll start charging up a shot that can go across like half the map. And if it hits someone, it'll do like half their health and knock them back a little. Obviously, you'll rarely get to take advantage of this, you're not very often close enough to. However, the difference with this one is that this buys into what Chloe is supposed to do a lot more by making her more of a sniper. Not to mention, the simple fact that it's more likely to hit means that your teammates can take advantage much better. Unlike the bat bomb, you're usually watching it while it travels, so you can also tell whenever something's about to hit. And if you can't take advantage of that hit, so what? It's usually pretty hard to hit it anyway. It foams off the ground even if you miss. Unless you shoot it into the sky for some reason. And it makes a pretty big pile too. Now that on its own wouldn't be very good. The fact that this has another use, which is to launch you into the sky when you pull out your umbrella and float for a little bit, is really, really good. This move is a sniper and an escape tool. And a good escape tool. I don't see many people using it for that very often. But it can enable some crazy escapes. You can very easily use it to get away. Like if you jump and then use it, you can jump over people. Or you can reach high up areas that mostly only mobility characters are going to be able to get up to. It's really good at letting you get away, because a lot of players don't expect Chloe's to use it most of the time. And it can take you to areas that a lot of characters will struggle to get to. So it's very easy to get away. And even if there is nowhere for you to go, you can just use it to get a bit of a boost. The bats that it throws out really don't do anything. Like, they do no damage, they're mostly just a wall, and not a very good one. So the fact that this move is both a sniper and an escape tool in one move puts it in A tier in my opinion. Diabule is Chloe's ult, and it's very complicated to explain. It is easily the strongest ult in the entire game if left unchecked. The problem is, it's very easy to check it. It's extremely easy to shoot her while she's in it, and most characters are able to do so. If you want to survive, you have to waste time doing the dodge, which prevents you from shooting. However, if the team is not shooting at you, say you have them cornered, and they're more worried about getting away, this can absolutely wreak havoc. If foams really well, it does a ton of damage. If you get hit by it, you're probably going to get hit again because it stuns you. You go into the sky, so it's a little hard to hit. The fact that she can be shot out of it so easily means that you almost always have to use it when you're full on health. Because if your health is low, you're probably not going to get a lot of use out of it before you die. And you lose the ult if you die while in it. The fact that you almost always have to use the dodge that prevents you from shooting because it's so easy to hit you makes it hard to place. Because if you're not getting shot out of it, it is diabolical. It can single-handedly win games, it can single-handedly force retreats, it can single-handedly foam the entire board. But if there's a Mel T on the other team shooting at you, you really can't do much. I'm going to put it in A tier because if you're good enough at the dodge, you can use it and then be able to get shots in anyway. And also if the team isn't shooting at you, you can do abhorrent amounts of damage. If Chloe was invincible during this move, I think it would be the best move in the game. I don't think being able to shoot her out of it is enough of a downside to take it out of A tier, but I do think it's enough of a downside to prevent it from going into S tier. Now we're kicking Ramzey off with the only move of his that both me and SoaBoa actually agree on. And that's bombs away, or bombs away, whatever the hell you want to call it. Interesting little tidbit that I wanted to share. You might know that jumping on all 3 explosions from the forward-facing version causes him to make 3 different noises, but I found a way to test if jumping on all 5 from the other version makes different sounds. And it turns out he doesn't make any creative noises. He just makes 2 other noises that could have played before anyway, just ones that didn't end up playing. But anyway, I digress. So like I just said, there's 2 different versions of the move. There's the one with the 5 small explosions that go off to the side, and there's the one with the 3 big explosions that go off in front of you. So this ability is really good at getting you into the fight, because you can jump on the bombs, get launched up by it, and it's surprisingly hard to hit Ramzey while he's jumping on them. So Ramzey can use it to get into the battle, and it's extremely safe because it also makes a line of foam for him to use to get out if the battle's not going his way. So it's a good tool at approaching and engaging in battle, but it's also a good tool in getting out of battle. Because as I already said, it's really hard to hit a Ramzey while he's jumping on it, so you can very easily use it to get away as long as you have enough time to throw it. And because it launches you upward, you can also use it to get up to a high ground, which can help tremendously with getaways. It's surprisingly easy to avoid the actual explosion damage. Not impossible, certainly not impossible, I've seen it hit a number of times, but you'd expect an explosion of 3 or 5 bombs to be a little bit harder to avoid than it actually is. That's not really its main purpose though, it's almost always used as an approaching tool. And if you hold backwards when you use it, the bombs actually fly back towards you, which is super annoying actually. Because usually if you're going to be throwing it, you're going to be throwing it close to enemies, so you're going to want to try to back up. But if you back up for even a second, the bomb just doesn't go the right way. So it at times can definitely feel very finicky to use, because you have to be moving in the perfect direction to get the version that you want. I don't think any of that's enough to take it out of A tier though, because it really is super good at getting Ramzey into the battle. And if he runs out of ammo, he can use it to get his ammo back so he can continue the battle, which is just extra bonus stacked on top of it. I don't think it's S tier because it does have enough flaws to take it out, but it doesn't have enough to take it out of A tier. Steeplechase is probably the move that my mind has been changed the most on in recent memory. I used to think this move was around D tier because, like, the sheep don't do anything, the foaming is negligible, the launch into the sky is better done with bombs away. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, having a free launch into the sky is the exact thing that I praised Chloe for. And while Steeplechase, sure he doesn't get to glide, sure he doesn't have the extra functionality of sniping, but it's a free jump into the sky for a character that needs to be close up to do a lot of damage. And that's really valuable to have. Sure, the sheep don't do much of anything, it just like barely bounces you. The sheep it makes, I think, are supposed to form a wall to protect them, but they really just don't do that. You can walk through them very easily. Sure, the sheep don't foam very well at all. Like, when they explode, sure, they create some foam, but it's a very easily destroyable wall of foam. It's around the level of Sumptuous Promo, but Sumptuous Promo is still a pretty good foaming option, so I can't say it's worthless in that department either. It has no really good applications, So I really don't understand why SoaBoa put it in A tier, but I'm putting it in B tier because you really can't say no to free mobility, especially on a character like Ramzey, where mobility makes or breaks him as a character. Having a move that just launches him up and gives him a little boost in momentum. I used to think it was D tier, but the more I thought about it, I'm moving it all the way up to B. It's a pretty good move. And finally, we've reached Ramzey's Dream, which I use as an example of something I didn't agree with in the intro. I do not understand how this move is S tier in any way. It's very uncommon for this move to do much of anything, but make Ramzey a little bit more powerful for a very, very short amount of time. Because to use it effectively, you need to get close. And if you get close, you can easily get shot out of it by the entire enemy team. Yes, it draws fire away from your other teammates. And yes, it's a decent get out of jail free card. But you can be killed after getting shot out of it. Like, you get shot out of it and then you fly into the sky, they can shoot you while you're up there. You either have to hope they miss, hope they don't shoot, or use an ability to run away. This ability doesn't help with pushes unless your entire team is with you. The explosion makes you very vulnerable to any character with a moderate amount of range. So honestly, to me, this move is mostly just for foaming. Yes, you can use it to run in the right situation, but in that situation, you don't really need to be Dark Ramzey. You can just be normal Ramzey and you'll be fine anyway. Now, it would be remiss of me to not say that yes, obviously Ramzey does get stronger when using this move. However, the fact of the matter is, ults are supposed to make your character stronger. Every ultimate is designed to do something that increases the power of you or your team. So the fact that this move only makes Ramzey a bit stronger doesn't move the needle all the way up to S tier. Now, there is something that SoaBoa said about this move that I wanted to bring up. Now, usually I don't bring up specific things that SoaBoa said, because if I did, then there would be no point for you to go watch his video. However, I did want to make an exception for this one. He mentioned that the fact that you can use your surfboard on it is a plus side. It's more the lack of a downside, because most ults, I can only think of 3 ults, Soa, Mel T, and Chloe, that prevent you from saving somebody when you're using it. And that's really the only use for the surfboard. Like, yeah, you can use it to go faster, but they could have just put that in the ult that you move extra fast, but they didn't. So it's not really an upside, it's just a lack of a downside. So it doesn't do anything most of the time. I don't see... How does this go into S tier? Like, yeah, it's still, like, alright, but I'm only putting it in B tier. I don't understand S tier at all. Also, I'm not talking about Bublo, fuck you.